We begin the ReidOut tonight with Republicans rewarding the far-right contingent that they just can't seem to break free of. After Kevin McCarthy literally sold his soul and crawled on his belly to grasp the speaker's gavel, there was but one final task: to complete his conversion into reek, if you're a Game of Thrones fan. Otherwise, do Google. Kevin and his fellow House leaders have now finalized their committee assignments, and we now know what MAGA Republican insurrectionists, conspiracy theorists, and other national security risks will be up to for the next 2 years. And it should terrify you. 4 of the most extreme MAGA election deniers got seats on the House Oversight Committee: Marjorie Taylor Greene, Scott Perry, Lauren Boebert, and Paul Gosar. Now, just to refresh your memory, all 4 voted to overturn the 2020 election. Lauren Boebert is the barely reelected Colorado Congresswoman who has made a show of avoiding the House magnetometers and made a video where she attacked Speaker Pelosi to the tune of gunshot noises. Subtle. Scott Perry is the House Freedom Caucus leader who tried to manipulate the Justice Department to overturn Trump's election loss and later asked for a pardon for his part in the sedition. Like Perry, Paul Gosar's fingerprints are all over January 6th. He helped to plan the rally before the siege on the Capitol. His own siblings have campaigned against him, even calling for him to be kicked out of Congress for being a traitor. In the last Congress, he was kicked off his committees and censured after tweeting a deranged fake anime fantasy where he murders Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez before taking a pair of knives to President Biden. Totally normal stuff. But Gosar also can't stop speaking at white nationalist conferences, which he did as recently as last year, as did Marjorie Taylor Greene at the far-right America First Political Action Conference, organized by white nationalist Trump dinner companion Nick Fuentes, where this happened.
Can we give a round of applause for Russia? Yes. Absolutely, absolutely.
In addition to the House Oversight Committee, Marjorie got a plum spot on the, and I wish I were making this up, Homeland Security Committee. So even though the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI have repeatedly said that white supremacists are the biggest domestic terrorism threat to our country, Kevin McCarthy gave someone who speaks at their conferences a seat on the committee that oversees Homeland Security. But Marjorie Greene doesn't just pal around with threats to national security. She is a security threat herself. Recall this from her pre-Congress days as a QAnon troll.
You are using your lobby and the money behind it and the kids to try to take away my Second Amendment rights. You don't have anything to say for yourself? He's a coward. He can't say one word because he can't defend his stance, because there is no defense for taking away guns.
Harassing Parkland school shooting survivor David Hogg was one of the many things that got her kicked off her committees in the last Congress. But that's water under the bridge now that she's one of Kevin McCarthy's biggest backers. And it's what she's done and said since being in Congress. That's what makes her appointment the most alarming. Cassidy Hutchinson told the January 6th committee that Greene bragged about the number of her QAnon follower constituents who were in Washington on the 6th to back Trump's attempts to stay in office. And last month, Greene spoke at the New York Young Republicans Conference, where the group's president declared total war on their perceived enemies while trotting out a who's who of white nationalists.
Then January 6th happens, and next thing you know, I organized the whole thing along with Steve Bannon here. And I want to tell you something, if Steve Bannon and I had organized that, we would have won. Not to mention, it would have been armed.
Joining me now is Charles Blow, New York Times columnist and MSNBC political analyst, and former Republican Congressman Francis Rooney of Florida. Charles Blow, this is the completion of the insurrection. This is as if Jefferson Davis, was made chairman of, of the Senate Oversight Committee or placed in charge of the United States Senate or the House. I mean, this is placing literally the Confederates in charge of the Union Your thoughts on these developments?
You're right, and I am no fan of Jefferson Davis, but Marjorie Taylor Greene is no Jefferson Davis. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene is just kind of a hollow shell of a person who believes, and actually is correct in believing, that theatrics get her attention, and attention makes her money, and money makes her powerful within her party. And so she's a stunt queen, and so that's what she does. But this is, as you said, part of the hostage-taking of the Republican Party and McCarthy. You had one group of extremists who held up the vote and one group of extremists who supported McCarthy in his efforts. Marjorie Taylor Greene happened to be one who supported him, but they were all taking him hostage. And this is part of the ransom. He has to reward them, and he has to play to them. And this is why we now have, or going to have, a Congress that barely functions. If you have people who do not believe in democracy, in this democracy, and have basically put that on the record that they don't by their actions and by the positions that they've taken, you cannot have a functioning democracy that works underneath those people.
Congressman Rooney, I'm looking here at the full list of the Republican Oversight Committee that will be Jim Jordan's fiefdom. I mean, the list is some of the most extreme people in the United States House of Representatives. Andy Biggs is on this list. He's somebody who Ali Alexander, one of the planners of the events before the Capitol siege, said was on his team, helping him to plan everything. These are insurrectionists, extremists, people who asked for pardons. This is the most reckless list ever, and they're the ones that are going to be doing oversight. And Marjorie Greene, to the point Charles Blow made, she's a stunt queen. Before she was in Congress, she was literally outside of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's door in Congress, harassing her and screaming into the little vent. And yet, there is one thing she said that I think is true. She tweeted, "We're not the fringe, we're the majority." She said, there are a lot of people that need to hear this. She calls herself conservatives in the House aren't the fringe. We actually represent the base of Republican voters, which is approximately 70%. When the party learns to represent conservative Americans, we'll never lose again. Well, we'll never lose again because, as she said, they'll just basically overthrow the government if they seem to lose. But unfortunately, I think she's right. Kevin McCarthy is presiding over a party where a lot of people are Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Well, first of all, the majority of Americans are not going to let these kooks take over the government, no matter what they may say or think. What I'm really worried about is what this says about Republicans, who are by and large, much more reasonable than this fringe that Kevin is rewarding. I think that you said it perfectly, that he is bound by all these promises he made to succeed in his own ambition. It's kind of like it's kind of like Ulysses going up the Straits of Messina and being surrounded by the whirlpool of Charybdis and the six-headed monster of Scylla, and they're pulling at him each way. And what's he going to do? And he's just lowering our brand at every step by rewarding these people. I mean, you got a fraud and a crook, Santos. You got this maniac lady, total disreputable person, and now he's rewarding her just because she came over to his side. And it kind of really galls me about Gozar, because they wouldn't let me on the Natural Resources Committee because they said I voted like a Democrat, because I introduced a carbon tax, which every Fortune 500 CEO supports as a responsible way to drive coal out of the energy equation.
The thing is that they're not only, to your point, infecting these committees with the kooks. She's on Homeland Security, Marjorie Greene. And you mentioned Santos. I mean, Homeland Security. This is a woman who herself is a threat to our Homeland Security, gets to be on the Homeland Security Committee. And you mentioned Santos.
Yeah, you would think she wouldn't have enough of a clearance to be on that committee, given her past acts.
Exactly. And Charles, that means she's going to have access to national security information. We could be in a situation where people like this, people like Andy Biggs, people like Scott Perry, who represented a literal threat to our security, can demand sensitive documents and get them because they're on the community. They could be looking, they may not be people worthy of being taken seriously, but they're going to have access to national security information.
This is all just
I would say I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, sorry.
Charles first, go.
I was just saying, this is all just it's incredibly dangerous what they're doing, and what Republicans are doing what they started to do as soon as Trump was elected. It is the Paul Ryan approach, which is Paul Ryan wrote himself that I didn't want to be the scold. I didn't agree, but I put my head down and I felt like I could be the guardrails and I could keep the machine going, and I did not want to be the scold against Trump. And Republicans keep making the same mistake but if there's a void and no one's objecting to these people, it sounds like acquiescence. It sounds like approval. The nothingness sounds like approval to the rest of the country. And that is the problem that Republicans keep making, so they cannot separate themselves from the Marjorie Taylor Greens.